It's the Security Weekly News. I'm Doug White, and it is episode 497 of this show, if you can believe that. It is Friday, the 25th of July, 2025. Welcome aboard. We got Total Recall, Steam, Storm-2063, Unmarker, Altair, Josh Marpet, and more stories on this episode of the Security Weekly News.
This is a Security Weekly production for security professionals by security professionals. Please visit securityweekly.com/subscribe to subscribe to all the shows on our network.
We interrupt our program to bring you this important message.
It's the show that keeps you up to date on the latest security news twice a week. Your trusted source for accurate security information and expert analysis. It's time for the Security Weekly News. Ransomware, supply chain attacks, 0 days. Cyber threats don't wait, and neither should your defenses. With ThreatLocker, you're not just reacting to threats, you're stopping them before they start. Our Zero Trust endpoint protection locks down your environment with pinpoint control over what's allowed to run and what's not. No guesswork, no blind spots, just proactive, built-for-now security that keeps your business moving. Want to see how a true default deny strategy works? Head over to securityweekly.com/threatlocker and take the first step towards shutting the door on threats before they even knock. It's the Security Weekly News, and I'm Doug White. Hit that like and subscribe button and leave a comment, or don't. I mean, it's summer, it's hot, there's bugs everywhere. What else are you going to do? Just pray for winter. Pray to Euler, the god of snow. Yeah, we can all just keep thinking that to yourself. It helps. Well, I haven't ranted about this in a while. Recall. Microsoft Recall. That's the product that no one wants. Needs are, that could ever be used to sell your personal data. Yeah, that one. It takes a screenshot of all your active windows every few seconds, puts it in some kind of database, provides an AI analysis of it, and then it allows you to search this data later for some reason, because I'm not exactly sure why, but what email was I sending on Tuesday, Sheila? It's not clear. Jim, that spreadsheet we were working on for old Mr. Markham. Can you recall what was in cell Z49? The killer's name? I don't know. And then recall. It lets Jim and Harmon look back through their old materials. I don't know, but it is out there, and it is still an opt-in at this point. So you might want to enjoy the old opt-in while you can, because I figure pretty soon it'll be an opt-out. But it's probably already on your machine. I don't know. The call's coming from inside the house. Who can tell? I mean, I don't know what's on this machine anymore. And now again, Windows 11 has already had 2 vulnerabilities rated over 9 this year. But trust us. Your data's safe. Trust us. We wouldn't ever tell you we were not collecting your data and then we were really collecting it and really selling it to North Korea. Okay. I mean, I know the point. But anyway, the point of the story was Brave, which, if you're not familiar with it, is a web browser that often claims to be safer, that doesn't sell your data, et cetera, et cetera. The standard litany of why my browser is better than your browser kind of stuff. Apparently have enabled a feature that disables recall for all Brave tabs. So, I mean, that's good, right? But of course, recall recall doesn't just stop with those blurry Brave tabs. It's recording all of your windows. That's right. Not just browser tabs. Signal blocked recall back in May, so that recall couldn't track every message you got, every message you sent, to anyone, and who you sent it to or what they sent to you. But don't worry, trust us. I mean, I would presume it won't be too long before someone is selling recall blocking software, because I would guess it won't be too long before they just go, it's an opt-in, opt-out, which means that you have to opt out. And, and it won't be too long before somebody gets compromised and there's multiple vulnerabilities found in recall. And, this whole database can be extracted by 12-year-old kids in New Jersey. Sound familiar? Yeah, not a fan. But hey, Brave, at least you're trying. Now, another thing that you may have on your desktop or your computer that you may not even know you have on your computer is Steam. I mean, Steam is running in the background on a lot of people's machines, and it's basically a global file sharing service with local access to, to your system. I mean, if you think about it, I mean, that's really what it is, right? It's just a mechanism where you can download executables from this source and give them access to your local machine. Now, if you don't know what Steam is, it's a company that sells video games or resells video games and manages the installs and the updates and all the downloadable content and all the stuff through this thing called the Steam app, which is possibly running on your local machine. You know, I mean, if you ever decided that you just had to play Beat the Weasel or whatever new game came out this week, you may have installed Steam and it may still be there. It's very persistent. Now, Steam has both, traditional corporate produced games that you've heard of from Electronic Arts and others, but it also has this whole section that's actually cool but dangerous called Early Access and Indie. And so they actually have games on here long before if they ever even get released, because some of them are so horrible. And they have indie games that other people have developed. But a few days ago, a user named Larva208 injected binaries into a game called Kimia, which is some kind of survival crafting game. I haven't played it because I'm like, I don't want to do survival and crafting in real life. Why would I want to do that in a game? But you be you, and everybody. That's why they have different kinds of games. And that game was on Steam. And the injected binaries they had Hijack Loader, which is a persistence tool, and it also downloads VB-IDAR, which is another info stealer. And then yet another binary that was called Fickle Stealer was added to the game 3 hours later through a DLL file. So they were just loading this thing up. So the Fickle Stealer is an info stealer that targets browsers, credentials, autofill information, cookies, and crypto wallets, the usual suspects. Now, the download of the malware, it looks like a legitimate part of the game, so it's really hard to spot because they updated the binaries in the game. I don't know exactly how they did this, but I mean, if you are using these things, whether it's Steam or something else, you really need to be vetting pretty much everything you download, even if you're just an end user. You're just at home and you say, I love to play games. I hit all the new games up that come out, even if they have really horrible reviews. But the problem is that none of this stuff is safe. And it may be so subtle that you don't know you've been infected with something until it's way too late. So, sandbox this stuff, put Steam in a sandbox, download things, evaluate it, see what it's trying to do. And I know that's a challenge, right? You really just want to play Salt Mine, the game where you mine salt to build more salt mining tools that allow you to mine more salt and sell it to the other salt empires. I mean, and you don't want to take the time to sandbox it, evaluate it, pen test it, and do all this stuff, but you probably need to be doing that. The article does have a bunch of indicators of compromise for this particular attack, and the game is still available on Steam, and Steam has apparently not replied to any comments. So, maybe don't install Kimia today if you really need a survival crafting game. At least don't put it on your main workspace. I would never run these things in my main workspace anyway. You run them in a virtual machine or something so that you don't have to deal with all this crap. And if you get suspicious, you can just wipe the virtual machine and salt the earth and never use it again. On the 22nd of July, several reports were released. I have two stories about this because I was actually sort of misled into thinking they were different stories, but they both stated in their headline that the U.S. National Security Administration, or U.S. National Nuclear Security Administration, so that sounds scary, had been compromised. They also mentioned the U.S. Department of Education, Florida's Department of Revenue, and the Rhode Island General Assembly, where nothing crooked ever went on. But that was just some of the many organizations that were exploited by the SharePoint 0 days that we talked about last week. Two Chinese nation-state groups in this article were referred to as Lenin Typhoon and Violet Typhoon. Boy, that's a tough one to get stuck with. Hello, I'm the Violet Typhoon. I'm sorry, not violent. That would be better, right? Violent Typhoon, violet, like the color violet, Roy G. Biv and all that. But anyway, Lenin Typhoon and Violet Typhoon were targeting internet-facing SharePoint servers and exploited these 0 days that are called Toolshed to compromise systems. So I think the point of it for my first article was that you need to be working on this. I mean, it's frustrating that products we purchase to use have so many flaws, but that is just how it is. You are the QA person in the world model today. OS come out, you're assumed that you will find all the bugs, but you need to have a monitoring and patching plan in place for this stuff, especially those outward facing devices, because if you're not on top of those, somebody else will be. Nation state someone's, not just 12-year-old kids in middle school, but nation states. Giant economies that spend billions on war and billions more on intel are backing these groups to target you. And they do keep up with the latest flaws. They have really good information. In fact, they should resell that like their information disclosure so they can make more money. So we all have to be better. What is your time to patch? If somebody comes out right now for some outward facing component you have, how long is it going to be before you have that patch? And how long is it going to be before Linen Typhoon or somebody decides to come after you? Are your management interfaces and private VLANs? Is the VPN to access the private VLAN patched? Is it some VPN you downloaded off Steam? All these questions and more. But at the same time, another story. So this one it said a Chinese-backed group called Storm-2063 was busy deploying Warlock ransomware to SharePoint servers that run on premises. Now, they said more than 400 organizations have been compromised in 4 confirmed attack waves that went on between the 17th of July and the 21st of July from iSecurity. Now, this article seems to overlap with that first one. So maybe Linen Typhoon and Violet Typhoon are also called Storm 2603 and Mr. Frundles by some other groups. We've had stories about them trying to standardize these naming conventions and so forth. Now, Warlock is a ransomware as a service group that is actually called Warlock Dark Army. I think that's for Mr. Robot. And Warlock was used in this attack to ransomware a bunch of people and across multiple vertical sectors, which they have a list, and it's just kind of like everything, down to the Department of Public Works. You name it, they targeted everybody. This article says that as of yesterday, it was still unclear who was hit and if anyone is actually being held for ransom and so forth. Now, Warlock, ransomware as a service group, claimed responsibility for attacks on Astronica, which is a Polish aerotech firm, Nippon Life India, Asset Management, Unilever, and Carducci. This was confirmed to be using SharePoint tool shell vulnerabilities that we talked about previously. And so these are the same SharePoint problems that the last story mentioned, and both stories talk about the exact same groups of people, including the U.S. National Nuclear Security Administration. So the point remains, you need to up your game, and you need to have your patch plans up and running, and they need to probably be running pretty quick. Not this in 2 to 5 years, we'll try to have a patch and mitigation in place because somebody's going to come get you. It may be a 12-year-old kid, but it could also be, the People's Republic of China. Watermarks have been around. That's probably something from the Sumerian Empire or something. We've had watermarks for a long time as a way for artists and people to essentially, put their signature on something. And, building a logo into a sheet of paper or into something else is like money has watermarks in it. It's something that everybody's always trying to find more sophisticated ways of doing. And of course, other people are trying to find ways to fake and or remove said watermarks. If anybody's ever used like a photoshopping service online and was trying to take cool pics off all their pictures so they didn't have to pay for it. Now, we always talk about identity management and, how do we verify that a letter from the colonies that arrived was really sent by Mr. Danube in New York and not some Barry Lyndon ne'er-do-well? How do we do that? And identity management is a crisis that's still going on because we don't have good ways to repudiate and do non-repudiation of, if my boss tells me I need to go to Las Vegas tomorrow, how do I know that came from my boss and it wasn't just some deep fake? Deep fake started generating all kinds of concern, and proposals to force watermarks onto these documents have been considered by the U.S. Congress and others as they tried to talk about how do we control this. Now, all the big players immediately jumped on board back in 2023 when this stuff came up in front of Congress, and they started talking about how do we know that this video is of dear leader or this video is of, the secretary of whatever. and they talked about watermarking, and all the big players built watermarking tools like SynthID is Google's, and Stable Signature from Meta is theirs. But some pesky grad students at the University of Waterloo created a tool called Unmarker, which can apparently remove all watermarks from all these various pieces of media in just a few minutes using a 40 gigabyte NVIDIA A100 GPU. So not a bunch of horsepower. The paper, if you're interested, is called Unmarker, a universal attack on defensive image watermarking, and it appeared in the 46th IEEE Symposium on Security and Privacy in May. So you should be able to get that paper if you're interested in it. I mean, and there's a link to it in the article as well. I mean, we are going to get AI whether we want it or not. And we are likely getting AI with very few, if any, safety rails or any other controls around them, because how would you actually do that? I mean, digital watermarks, does the, make the AIs carry their visas around pinned to their lapels? I had a different joke there, but I took it out. It's too soon. But I mean, even if the big players all band together and do the right thing. Okay, settle down. You can quit laughing now. Rogue minor league players will be standing in every single alley saying, "Hey, rogue AI over here, naked AI. Hey, we got nakeder AI. Oh yeah, we've got naked, triple naked AI over here. Yeah, come on over here, buddy. Come on. You want to see it all? You want to see the AI uncovered? Here it is." But I mean, that's going to be going on. Not to mention nation states. So watermarks are probably not going to slow down deepfakes and AI development at all, although this is a very interesting tool, and it does basically show that somebody can probably get around these things very quickly, and we'll right back where we started. So probably need to do some more research here. Christina Chapman of Arizona. There's a name. Christina Chapman was charged last year with running a laptop farm to help North Koreans pretend that they are not in North Korea. Yeah. I mean, this person claims they were sort of roped into this and ended up doing everything for all these North Korean workers. Chapman pled guilty in February, and per all the court documents, which was really the point of this article, they were releasing all these details. The scheme hit more than 300 companies and generated over $17 million in revenue. Now, basically what was going on was Chapman was acting as an intermediary for the North Koreans who were posing as IT workers. And I think they were mostly just being IT workers, with benefits, or I don't know how do we put that, IT workers with benefits. But, obviously when somebody from North Korea contacts your company and says, "Hey, I would love to work for you as an IT help desk support professional." And they're like, are you calling from North Korea, like Pyongyang? And they're like, "Yes, what's wrong with that?" Yeah, well, you can't do that. So then you basically end up with these intermediaries pretending to be, I don't know, Chad Parker of Gigglytown, PA is going to work for you remotely. So you send a laptop over to Gigglytown where, Chapman goes down and picks it up and then forwards the laptop to North Korea, although you think maybe FedEx or somebody might notice, or DHL. How do you send something to North Korea? Like, hey, do they have like little pop-up shops like Pyongyang ships or something? But you go to DHL and say, "I need to send this laptop to Pyongyang forthwith." And, so Chapman also had to be around to file all the paperwork, the I-9s, all the documents on the behalf of the fake worker, and get their paychecks. Because guess what? When you tell them you want their money deposited in the First National Bank of North Korea, somebody might notice that. So instead, they paid Chapman. She gets a cut. She sends the money on to Pyongyang, and, Bob's your uncle. Now, North Korea is believed, and this kind of, it's not maybe 100%, but this was the belief that they may have deployed around 3,000 skilled IT workers physically. So they just packed them up, put them on planes, and went, "Go get a job, son. You're 18 now." And, and so they're working. And another 1,000 that operate inside the country pretending to be local. It's believed that they generate $250 million to $600 million in revenue every year for North Korea. I mean, Chapman got 102 months in prison and had to pay around $400,000 in fines. And the U.S. government's offering a lot of cash for some of the North Koreans that were involved. I bet that'll work out. They're probably not in the country. but they offered like $3 million US dollars for the top 2 people involved in this, and some lesser villains got booked out at 500K each. Boy, that must sting a little bit. My boss, they're giving $3 million for my boss. I'm only worth 500. Of course, with me, it would be like, oh yeah, and you can have him. We'll just give you him for free. So anyway, be careful how you vet remote employees, and ensure that you have some controls in place to check up on this, so you don't just hire somebody, say, yeah, they had an I-9, all is well. Otherwise, you're going to end up with North Korea running your IT shop, which could be a little embarrassing. Well, this week was the 50th anniversary of Bill Gates and Paul Allen signing a deal with Micro Instrumentation and Telemetry Systems, which was called MITS, if you don't remember, back in 1975, if you don't want to do math this early in the day. The company, which was known as MITS, and the company contract was for Gates and Allen to provide a basic, so good old basic interpreter for MITS's newest computer, which was called the Altair 8800. Yeah. Now, the Altair 8800 may well be the first microcomputer / PC type system that ever came out. It was a modular computer. It had an 8080 Intel CPU, and it had card slots that you could plug into the bus to add memory and controls and removable storage and all kinds of stuff. Now, the machine, like a lot of stuff in 1975 that didn't cost $20 million, was aimed at hobbyists. People that liked ham radio and stuff like that think nothing of putting an antenna on top of their house that looks like, the Eiffel Tower or something in real size. But the Altair 8800 cost about $4,000 by the time you actually got it all built and bought all the pieces. The initial model only had a kilobyte of RAM, but you could expand it to 4K if you wanted to run Microsoft 4K Basic. That's where the name came from. And that was also the very first Microsoft product that ever came out with the Microsoft name on it. Now, nobody knew that this would end up being, Microsoft, and they would be making stuff like Recall. But I really wanted one of those Altair 8800s, but I couldn't have afforded $400, let alone $4,000. I had to buy guitar strings and stuff. Now, I did see some used ones that were as much as 20K, and I saw one for 5,000, and there was tons of fake ones, which were like basically built on Arduinos and stuff to make them act and look like the original Altair 8800. They're about $300 on eBay pre-assembled. So if you can probably buy all the parts cheaper, or just take your own, Raspberry Pi or something and build an emulator for that exciting thing with all the little switches on the front. Well, next up, professional exotic dancer Josh Marpet joins us. Hey, Josh.
I need to be able to not laugh hard enough that I can't hit the damn. Oh my God, you're horrible.
It's the ether.
Oh my God. All right. So I need to go hit the unmute part, the unmute button. Jesus, man, you're horrible. All right. So I wanted to talk about crypto agility. I get this question a lot. And so I saw this article. I was like, I need to talk about this. The idea is that we are at the cusp, the inflection point where we're going to have to start changing again. Now, if you're old like me, you remember when we went from SSL 3.0 to TLS 1.0, TLS 1.1, 1.2, and we stopped there. Because TLS 1.2 was fine for the last, 10 years? 15 years? Almost, no, yeah, 2015, 2013, somewhere in there. So 10 to 12 years, we've been using the same thing and we haven't changed anything. There have been people that have done their entire career that have never changed a cipher suite. And that's kind of terrifying because we're about to hit this again. See, there's two things happening. Number one is that TLS 1.2 is end of lifing now, 2025. Period. You're not supposed to use it anymore in another 6 months. You're supposed to be at TLS 1.3. Nobody is. Second thing is, by 2030, every single crypto cipher that we have in use right now is deprecated, and 2035, they are disallowed. You're not allowed to use them anymore. You must be using post-quantum crypto, period. So not only are we going to have to update to TLS 1.3 now-ish, we are going to have to update this crypto ciphers underneath TLS 1.3 over the next 5 to 10 years. which means that if you are hard coding your crypto cipher algorithms, your cipher suites and your algorithms, in anything you do, don't. So you have to have the ability to switch cipher suites. Does it have to be every 5 seconds? Do you need a stopwatch? No. But you need to be able to have modular cipher suites, modular cryptographic algorithms, so that you can switch them. NIST is starting to put out papers on what they call crypto agility. And how can I be crypto agile? That doesn't mean you can do parkour using triple DES. But what it does mean is that you can use your systems and switch them to different cipher suites as time goes on. Here's the problem. We may be incredibly crypto agile, but how about our third parties? Because the last time we had to do this in 2015, I was pulling information from one company and sending completed information to another company. Now, halfway through the project, you've sent it to 14 different companies because you have 30 different trusted parties that you share information with to enrich your information, to rate your information, to prioritize your information, to process your information, to use AI on it, and spread AI goodness all over the information with its special sauce. The idea here is that you have to have crypto agility and you can't hard code it. But your third parties may not be as crypto agile as you are. I mean, let's be honest. If you look just at the defense industrial base, which is where I live these days, how many of those people are actually NIST 800-171 compliant? And the answer is not very bloody many. They've been required to be compliant since 2018. So yeah, we got a problem. So if you become crypto agile, if you're like, oh, I'm TLS 1.3 completely, nobody's allowed on my network with TLS 1.2, and you go, we're post-quantum crypto, nobody's allowed on my network with under post-quantum crypto. Okay, great, but unfortunately, you've got a problem. What the problem is the third party may only be TLS 1.2, and they may go, hey, we're not going to update to TLS 1.3 until we have to in 2028. Yeah, but TLS 1.2 is deprecated and disallowed. I don't care. Everybody else is using it. Why can't you? So we've got to make the ability for people to be crypto agile built into the systems that we have. We've also got to make policy-based crypto agility. In other words, I don't want my restricted information going across a TLS 1.2 connection in another 6 months. I want my restricted information going across a TLS 1.3 connection in 6 months from now. And I want my restricted information going across a post-quantum crypto connection with TLS 1.3 in about a year or two from now. Our problem is not ourselves. Most of the companies that we work for and the people that listen to this podcast work for are able to and understanding of the need to switch crypto cipher suites. It's the third parties that we have to convince. We're all doing it. Why don't you? So, ladies and gentlemen, I want you to remember back to your high schools, and I want you to use peer pressure in as nasty a way as the Mean Girls always showed us, and make them crypto agile. Thank you.
Okay, I enjoyed that a lot. I like the whole high school clique being, into TLS 1.3. It's like, oh, you're so TLS 1.1. That's so last year. But no, I 100% agree with everything you said there, because I've seen that over and over again where there's two things going on. One is that we have tools that we can't upgrade or change, for whatever reasons, and we have third party tools that are the same way, and we can't, and you go into companies and say, okay, just tear all that out and replace it with this other thing is not always going to be popular, even if it's desperately needed. I mean, when you go in and say, okay, we're just going to gut the whole system and remove all this old code, like, yeah, that's
it gets awkward fast.
It gets very awkward very fast. It's more awkward than me trying to ask out a prom date. I mean, it's just, really, really problematic. But thank you, Josh. Well, you're getting AI. I'm on AI today. You're getting AI. I'm on AI and I can't get off, man. Like, I don't know. Like, I need more. I thought I was just going to try it. And the next thing I knew, I was down in the corner with $26 in my hand. Yeah. Sorry, that's a very old song quote. But anyway, you're getting it, and you're getting it now, whether you want it or not. I mean, Microsoft Recall, well, it's going in there. It's going in there, whether it fits, it doesn't matter. It's going in there. You can turn it off, or we'll turn it off for you, but it might get turned on somehow. Like, I don't know. But now AI search mode for your browser is there, right? I mean, Google already added this a while ago, and I think Bing has it, although I only use Bing to install other I use Bing to install Brave. And in fact, Bing has gotten really, AI responsive to that. It's like, why are you installing Brave? That seems foolish when you could just use Bing. It's already here. It's right here in your face, and you're going to use it, or a couple of guys are going to come by, AI bots, and they're going to break your legs, and then you'll be on a news show talking about how great Bing is. That's how the world works now. But Google's added it. Everybody else is adding it. I don't know how I feel about it. I know I don't trust it. I mean, the AI LLMs are collecting and considering how often they lie to me about everything, right? I mean, I wonder what all they are lying to me about. Like, no, that search you did for discolored holy folds won't be shared with anyone. But I see that spreadsheet on your other monitor has mistakes in cell AZ1786. You might want to change that. Bad things could happen to people that don't change that. I was like, that's my Microsoft budget allocation for the year. Yeah, that needs to be about 10 times that. Go ahead and fix it now. I mean, or remember last week when you were typing that letter to the editor about how it's your constitutional right to have an open bottle of brandy in the car so long as you have proper glassware based on some 17th century law? Recall those. I mean, I just wonder how long it's going to be before these floodgates burst open and one of these, companies starts handing off this information to, I don't know, insurance companies, because the insurer was willing to pay a large sum to see what their insured were up to. I mean, did you search for how to ask for an 8-ball of heroin in Indonesian? I mean, no, don't ever do that. Don't do drugs anyway, but especially don't do them in Indonesia. That's a really bad place to get involved with drugs. Not personal experience, but I read that somewhere. But I mean, what if that information got sold? Or the fact that you sit at your desk for 10 hours a day was being sold, and some AI is interpreting going, sits at desk 10 hours a day, wants to know what the price of heroin in Indonesia is. Your policy is canceled. But I think it's all getting collected right now. It's all getting dumped into these data centers, and they're going to use it. I mean, and the other problem I have is AI summaries. So now you search for something, and the AI summarizes the top sites, which may or may not be true or correct. Of course, not that that's not a problem when you click something either. Or maybe someone starts paying Google for what appears in that AI summary. Well, Doug, you might have a slight substance problems based on your queries about heroin, but wouldn't a bag of hot Cheetos hit the spot right about now? Watch this ad for 15 seconds, and then you can find out how to deal with your heroin problem. Now, I don't know. Remember when Google's motto was "Don't be evil"? Yeah, no. And AI has had that purged from its memory, but Recall remembers. Anyway, that's the news. I will be doing interviews at Black Hat, so if you want to buy one, let us know. And if nothing else, you can buy me a drink or something. Thank you, Josh. But we will see you next time on the Security Weekly News.